system is active and recording. All good, thanks very much. Ta. Welcome elected members, officers and members of the public. I declare this ordinary council meeting of the Shire of Broome open at 5 p.m. Could I ask those in the public gallery to now switch off their mobile telephones and electronic devices in accordance with the conditions of entry to the Council Chambers Public Gallery. In accordance with Regulation 14I of the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996, this meeting is being audio and video recorded and live streamed on the Shire's website. Under Clause 6.16 of the Shire's Meeting Procedures Local Law 2020, I do not give permission for any other person to record the proceedings of this meeting. By being present at this meeting, members of the public consent to the possibility that their image and voice may be live streamed to the public. Recordings are also made available on the Shire's website following the meeting. Please note that any items discussed behind closed doors will not be live streamed. However, once the meeting is open again to the public, live streaming will recommence. Councillors, for the purposes of live streaming and noting that we have an elected member attending electronically, can I ask that you please turn your microphone on prior to speaking and speak clearly and directly into the microphone. Once you have finished speaking, please turn your microphone off. Point 2, attendance and apologies. Councillor Marmot has requested and has been granted approval to attend this meeting electronically via Microsoft Teams in accordance with Administration Regulation 14CA and 14C5. Councillor Marmot, as per the Administration Regulation 14CA5, can you please confirm that you can maintain confidentiality during the meeting, including during any closed part of the meeting?
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you. Point 3, announcements by President. There are none. Item 4, declarations of interest. We have a financial interest from Councillor Cooper in item 9.2.1, which is the Broome Turf Club, and the nature of the interest is that Broome Turf Club is a client of his. Councillor Mail has a financial interest in the Turf Club as well, and the Broome Turf Club is a client of her business. Councillor Virgo has a financial interest in item 9.3.1, which is cruising visitor services, assessment of expressions of interest responses. Cruise Broome is signing an MOU with the Broome Visitor Centre, and Councillor Virgo is the General Manager of the Broome Visitor Centre. Councillor Mail has another financial interest in item 9.4.1, the annual electors meeting, 5th February 2026, officer recommendations, and in particular, elector motion 4 and 5 only. And they are a client of her business. We have a declaration of impartiality interest from the CEO, Sam Mastrelimbo, in item 9.2.1, the Broome Turf Club, and the nature of the interest, he's a member of the Broome Turf Club. Do we have any other declarations of interest? Thank you. Item 5, public question time. Do we have any public questions? Do we have any questions from the floor? Okay. We'll move on. As there is no public questions, the public question time is now closed. Item 6, applications for leave of absence. Do we have any applications for leave of absence? We've received none. No, thank you. Item 7, confirmation of minutes. There's a recommendation that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held 26 February 2026, as published and circulated, be confirmed as a true and accurate record of that meeting. Do I have direction from council? Moving Councillor Virgo, seconding Councillor Cooper. Is there any clarification on that? Any dissent? If not, that one is carried unanimously. There's a further recommendation that the minutes of the special council meeting held on the 16th of March 2026, as published and circulated, be confirmed as a true and accurate record of that meeting. So do I have direction from Council? Councillor Taylor, Councillor Matsumoto? Any clarification, any dissent? If not, I'll declare that one carried unanimously. Item 8, presentations, petitions and deputations. We have not received any. Nothing further? No. Okay, thank you. Moving on, item 9, reports from officers. 9.1.1, annual electors motion, Indigenous reference group and recommendations for Aboriginal engagement. And there is a report from page 6 of that one. Do I have any direction?
Could I just seek a clarification, please, Chair?
Councillor Smith?
On the capital budget conversation that was had on Tuesday, I understand that the recommendation associated with this particular item is considered as being deferred for deferral. What would be the timeline on delivering the engagement strategy and associated Indigenous engagement component of that?
CEO?
Through the chair. Yesterday, for the benefit of the gallery and those online, we had a council budget workshop, so no decisions are made through that process. But yes, the project brief for reviewing that communication and engagement strategy was tabled through that process. Council will formally, at this point, consider the budget for adoption at the June ordinary meeting of council. But at this stage, it's seeming like that funding may not be there in terms of where we're getting to with our draft budget. So if that funding is not allocated through the budget process, then we wouldn't have any dollars to progress the review of that document in the next financial year. We could come back through a mid-year budget review and reconsider that, or the council could, or potentially we look at it the following financial year.
Okay.
So sorry, and further to that, I should say that the fourth dot point of the report recommendation, that would still progress. That's sort of business as usual at the moment. Those meetings are already happening. In fact, there's one scheduled next Tuesday morning where we're intending, depending on how we go tonight, to actually table the draft terms of reference with those Aboriginal communities at that point.
Thank you. Okay. Do I have direction from Council on this recommendation? Councillor Taylor moving, Councillor Cooper seconded.
Sorry, can I have a clarification?
Yeah, you can now. I've got a mover and a seconder. Councillor Mahmood.
Yeah. I read through the briefing, and I read throughout the briefing that the engagement, consultation, research have all been with Aboriginal, organisations and companies and representative staff of these companies. I think I read a bit there where it might have been, information stores and things like that, like in the boulevard and wherever else it was. But was there ever an opportunity for community members who aren't necessarily staff or directors of these organisations to come together to provide some advice or feedback or an opinion on the proposal as a community sort of collective to whoever was conducting the consultation and research, like throughout that process?
Acting Director.
Yes, through the chair. The engagement that was undertaken is as per what's outlined in the consultation section of the report. So you can see there the stakeholders that we reached out to. That included all the prescribed body corporates within the Shire of Broome, the Kimberley Land Council, Bidjidanga Aboriginal Lagrange Corporation, or Backlagy, Lomadina Aboriginal Corporation, and we also reached out to the other remote communities in the Shire as well. We didn't open it up generally to people because that wasn't the direction that was provided to us by council through workshopping the matter.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
Okay.
Yeah.
it kind of, I think, confirms what I was thinking, what I was saying as well. I think, and like I think, look, not without getting into debate, I think the proposal for better two-way engagement was to do something outside of what you've researched and what has been done in the past, which is the consultation with only those entities. So I would personally like to request to have this deferred until there's a meeting with potential community members to come together to do as I've said in my first comments. And then look, if no one turns up, if it turns out bad or whatever, or and then everyone agrees that it's not a great idea, then I feel comfortable that all the boxes have been ticked. Otherwise, at the moment, I don't feel like the actual community members have been consulted with throughout this process, and it's only been representatives of the entities that have been engaged in the past. Which, in a way, we're kind of doing what has always been done, which is government entities and people of these Aboriginal organisations are still speaking on behalf of people within the community, rather than giving the community people their own voice. That's what I'm trying to prevent.
Okay, thanks.
And I think that's what was in the original request.
Yep. Thanks, Councillor Mahmood. Well, we have a mover and a seconder for this motion at this stage.
I've got another clarification then.
Councillor Lewis.
If we are not able to proceed with the suggestion that is in this motion, is it not important that we don't lose whatever little momentum we ever got, and that we do have something alternate? And I would think that Jahani's suggestion is a good one. So the question is, if we don't do what's in the motion, what are we going to do? Just forget it?
Well, I don't think it's going to be forgotten. We are doing substantial communications with communities already, both myself and the CEO, with direct communication.
I think you're mistaking. You're using community in two different ways. We're not talking about necessarily remote communities.
Councillor, you're debating. We're just...
No, I'm trying to explain my question then, because you've misunderstood it.
No.
We are talking about engaging with the Aboriginal community, even in Broome, not members of organisations, but ordinary, everyday people.
Okay,
So-
yes. All right. Thanks, Councillor Lewis.
Through the chair, I can answer some. The question was about if this is passed as is, what then happens. So the recommendation as it is requesting the CEO to incorporate this engagement through the review of that document. The review of the communication and engagement strategy is an action in the council's adopted council plan. So even if that is not funded through the budget process, it's still sitting in there as an action. We will be reviewing that document later in the year, and there will still be the opportunity, as I mentioned, to consider it through a budget review process for funding allocation and or to maintain it within that document as a priority and fund it the following year should council desire to do that.
Could I request an amendment then, Chair, to this motion in that we add another point to update the particular item within the council plan, which is the review of the community engagement strategy, and add some wording in there around including Indigenous engagement as a part of that?
I would, if you're asking for comment, I would say that document was adopted by council at the December ordinary meeting. It takes effect 1 July. It's about to be reviewed. Probably council, I think, would be better placed to look at it in that level of detail when it's reviewed again through this next process. If you want to actually change the text of that, I just caution against making edits to a document like that on the run, in terms of it setting a precedent. It's the biggest strategic document we have, as you know. So that would be my thought. But I think the recommendation that's there is trying to link the two things together. I think it does that adequately. It's coming down to funding at the end of the day, and the discussion we had yesterday about priorities and the resource capacity to progress it. The intent is still there if we can get to that point of having the funding available.
So are you happy with it, Councillor Smith? Okay, so all right. So we've got a mover and a seconder. Is there any dissent?
I will propose a dissent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mahmood. The mover is Councillor Taylor. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Sorry, microphone. Yep.
Oh, yes, thank you. I just want to begin by making one point very clearly. This is not a question of whether Aboriginal voices matter. They do. The question before us is whether creating this particular body at this time is the right mechanism for Broome. In my view, and consistent with the officer recommendation, the answer is no. The first reason is that in the Broome context, there is not an absence of Aboriginal engagement structures now. Shire already has a long-standing formal relationship with MBY and others, including memorandums of understanding, regular executive level meetings, presentations to Aboriginal bodies and Aboriginal representation across multiple Shire working groups and committees. Those include bushfire, emergency management, arts, culture, community safety, Cable Beach redevelopment and Yarru Park management. Shire also undertakes annual visits to the major Aboriginal communities and biannual online meetings with community leaders. In addition, officers already use targeted channels such as Radio Galari, community notice boards, event stalls, project-based consultation. That is not a vacuum. There is already a substantial engagement architecture. Second, when officers actually tested the idea of an Indigenous reference group with relevant organisations, they did not receive a clear, broad mandate to proceed. The report records mixed feedback, 3 yes, 1 maybe, 2 no, and 5 no responses. That is not the kind of clear endorsement that you would normally want before setting up a new representative body. One organisation that was supportive also said communication with the Shire has already been very good. I guess there is concern that duplicating existing collaborative frameworks is not the best approach. One of the groups did not want to commit without a clear purpose. Bidjadanga raised a serious concern that a body built mainly around traditional owner groups could exclude many Aboriginal people living in the community. So the problem is not just support, it is also representation, legitimacy and clarity of purpose. And I wish to add to that everyone in the Shire has the ability to raise issues with individual councillors as their representatives in the community. And that should be used more by those people that may feel disenfranchised in some respect. Third, if we establish a body without a clear framework, we risk creating something that is symbolic rather than effective. The officer report makes an important point. Many of the interstate and WA examples of Aboriginal advisory groups are anchored to an established framework, such as reconciliation plans, Aboriginal action plans. In Broome, officers are recommending that we first develop an Aboriginal engagement framework through the review of the corporate communications and engagement strategy and formalise engagement with the 5 major Aboriginal communities that have indicated they wish to participate. That is the more disciplined, practical sequence. First define purpose, scope, representation and methods, and then decide whether a standing reference group is actually needed. Fourth, I do not think the 2024 community scorecard can be fairly used as proof that this specific community group should be created. The scorecard does indicate that more work is needed on engagement and perceptions of the Shire among some cohorts, including First Nation respondents. But that is evidence that we should improve engagement methods. It is not evidence that this particular governance structure is the right answer. The officer recommendation responds directly to that issue by proposing a better engagement framework and more formalised community engagement rather than jumping straight to a new advisory body without settled foundations. Finally, I think it's important we are respectful and honest about what this decision means. Voting not to proceed is not rejecting Aboriginal engagement. It is saying that if we are going to create a representative body, it should be because there is a demonstrated need, a clearly defined role, broad support from those expected to participate, and a structure that fits Broome very specific cultural and community realities. On the material before us, that case has not yet been made. For those reasons, I support the officer recommendation. Do not proceed with the Indigenous Reference Group at this stage. Instead, strengthen what already exists, develop the Aboriginal engagement framework and formalise direct engagement with major communities. That is a more careful, respectful and effective course for Broome.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Cooper, you wish to...
Yes, Mr. President. It's on the record that I've been fully supportive of greater Indigenous communication. I am known to have been the legal guardian of an Indigenous girl from a remote community, and I'm known to have spent considerable time over the last 12 years in remote communities working with Indigenous organisations. It's unfortunate that Councillor Mamid wasn't present on Tuesday's meeting, because at that meeting I sought clarification from Connor and the Shire in relation to the consultation that was actually conducted with Indigenous communities. And it was clear from that, from those questions that I asked on Tuesday, that the Shire has gone over and above and tried to engage as many groups as possible. And in my comments on Tuesday, I made comments that it was disappointing that 5 groups chose not to even respond at all, and that of the other groups, only some of them wanted to be maybe involved or partly involved, and there was hardly any uptake in relation to the Indigenous reference group that we were proposing. As Councillor Taylor said, the original officer's motion requests the CEO incorporate the development of an Aboriginal engagement framework and formalises engagement with 5 major Aboriginal communities. And given the responses or lack of to where we've got to today, whilst it's been disappointing, I feel that is the best way forward, and that is why I support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Councillor Mahmood, do you wish to speak?
Yeah. Look, I know to acknowledge all the work and research done behind the scenes on the matter to this point, but I also note that there hasn't been an opportunity for the people we're speaking about to come together and, as a collective, to provide their opinion, feedback and advice on the matter, which is, from what I understand, is apparently the whole reason why this proposal exists, for the intent of better two-way communication. So if we continue to do the things in the same way that we have in the past, except with a few more policies, we're not making the difference in terms of making better two-way consultation or engagement or communication. I feel that the Shire is still confused about what community consultation and engagement is when it comes to the Aboriginal community. There is a difference between between corporate leadership and the community leadership and representation. While a lot of these entities have been given the right to represent Aboriginal people, that right have not been taken away from the people within the community to do that themselves. And so I feel like if we're just going to the entities about certain matters without reaching out to anybody else, then those other people do not have their own voice to represent any opinion or feedback on whatever it might be, which would help the Shire's position on making decisions. One of those ways that we could use to think outside the box or just find another opinion opposed to our own and the other parties that we've been engaging with directly for so long, all this time. So, for example, Yarra is not a representative of the whole Yarra community. Not on all matters anyway. Yep. Neither is KLC. Even as a representative body, they're not a representative of everybody throughout the Kimberley. In regards to the committees, I noticed the committees was mentioned within the briefing. These aren't Indigenous community members either. These are community members, and some of them happen to be Indigenous. But where there are community Aboriginal entities that are on these, committee memberships, a lot of the representatives that come from those entities aren't even Indigenous themselves. And often there's not even a representative from the entity in the room when we have these meetings like community safety reference groups. So I wonder just how that consultation is actually being effective if we still don't have the right people in the room or an opportunity for the right people to hear what we're thinking about, talking about, deciding on, or an opportunity for them to even provide some level of feedback. So I actually wanted to request to defer this until there is a community, an open community meeting for representatives of the community rather than entities to be able to provide some feedback, as in the same way that we have been as councillors invited to provide feedback. And also give them an update on where things are at, so maybe they can have an idea of what's going on exactly when we're having these conversations about them.
Okay.
So community members have, you know, also stated that those annual meetings that we have throughout the outer regions or outer communities haven't been really effective. And I've been on some of those tours, and I've seen that there hasn't been a lot of turnout from the community at those meetings. So I wouldn't personally use those as a reference in terms of good engagement. Obviously, from the Shire perspective, we are going out there and doing those things, but for some reason, they're not meeting us halfway. And I've seen in Aboriginal community meetings where the community does not meet halfway if they have a lack of interest, and that sometimes that lack of interest is because they find that there's a lack of effectiveness coming from those engagements. And I'm not saying that this is what's happening, but it could possibly be what's happening. The alternative options mentioned within the document, the 2 points that both the other councillors have spoken on, are very consistent with the research process, within the research process, in the way that we've already been engaging with Aboriginal communities. So what I'm seeing, again, as I mentioned earlier, is a typical case of how government and Aboriginal entities or corporations or companies or whatever you want to call them are, again, speaking on behalf of Aboriginal community. And often the Aboriginal community don't even know that this is taking place, and they aren't given the opportunity to provide feedback or an opinion of their own from that grassroots level, that different perspective, grassroots level, if you like. I read the MOU today, actually, that exists between the Shire and NBY, and there is a point in there. It's section 3, and then there's a subsection 3 again that actually states that I'm very shocked that Yarra have not supported this because of that point. There is also was a mention earlier about, there was 3 yeses, there was 1 maybes, and there was 1 no. Two no's. One of them no's is Yarra, who, like I say, already has an existing MOU. So why would they benefit from this whole new advisory reference group? So of course they might not agree to it because they're already comfortable where they are. So either way, though, the 3 yeses to me beats the 2 no's. And the other 5 didn't respond. I'm not sure why. So I wouldn't be able to speak on behalf of them. Okay. And I wouldn't try to anyway.
Your 5 minutes is nearly up, Councillor Mahmood.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have another speaker for the motion?
Yes, thanks, Chair. I
Smith?
appreciate what Councillor Mahmood is saying, particularly with respect to getting to the grassroots level of the community. I think with the way that the officer's recommendation has been drafted is that we can, through the corporate communications engagement strategy and the particular component of that that's going to focus on Indigenous engagement, we can call on those grassroots members of the community to contribute directly into that. And then once we have the framework and foundation in place, then that provides the impetus to potentially, at that point, create an Indigenous reference group that, again, speaks to what Councillor Mahmood was saying, and encompasses more of the grassroots community members rather than the representatives of those people who, may or may not necessarily capture all the views and perspectives of the huge diversity of amazing Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that we have in the community. And for that reason, I think we need to take this as a first step. I don't think this is necessarily going to be the end of the process. First step in what will be a long journey to continue and improving our level of engagement with the Aboriginal community. And again, appreciate that and acknowledging that through the community scorecard that the cohort of First Nations peoples within our community are ranking and seem to be less engaged than other cohorts within the community. And so it is a really important focus area that I think we need to continue to focus on. And this is probably, it's not what we had originally envisaged, but I think it's a reasonable compromise that we have reached, and I think we can still achieve what we ultimately want to achieve with it.
Thanks, Councillor Smith. Do we have another speaker against the motion?
I'm actually for and against the motion, so I agree with what we've got written there. I'm not against any of that, but I think I'm worried about the gap that's going to proceed if we don't put either an end date on when we will do that community engagement strategy, or my other suggestion would be, which maybe needs an amendment, that we use this next community scorecard as a way of asking a question of, if you are Aboriginal or if you are interested, how do you think the Shire can engage better with you? And actually get something useful out of that scorecard that's actually meaningful for once, instead of boating facilities and, all the generic things that we know are going to be there. I think there's an opportunity for us to get something useful, which can then inform the next stage of the development of the communication strategy. So I don't know if that requires an amendment, or it's just a thought bubble that we do, we discuss later, or how we address that thought.
We can take that up as a community scorecard, I suppose.
We can take that offline for sure. I'm just not sure where that scorecard is currently at, but I think there's just nods over there. Is there still time for us to adjust that, the questions on that?
We would have to go back to Catalyse to get confirmation, but we did, following the last workshop, get some confirmation about the inclusion of the additional questions, which has been, recall we discussed that at the last workshop as well, so that's been accommodated now. The survey's largely been finalised, so we would have to get that advice back, and like Sam says, we can take it offline and have a discussion about it.
Okay. All right. Anyone else speaking for the motion? Okay, Councillor Mayo. Sorry.
I'm for the motion, and I think that if we
Microphone.
go along with this motion, I think.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Yeah, it's on.
Right, I'm for the motion, and I think it'll work. Because my feeling is that even if we go out to the communities, the 5 major communities plus Yarra, they may delegate somebody else within the community to be engaged with that. And I don't see that it's a bad thing. I know in the past we've just been dealing with the council in those communities, but I think it would be a wider thing if the community CEO or the chairperson said, no, I'll delegate one of the community members who may be a member of that community, and that could happen, and I can see it could happen.
Okay, thanks,
That's why I'm
Councillor.
for the motion.
Thank you. Any other speakers against the motion? If not, okay, Councillor Mayo, you wish to speak for the motion?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to make a couple of points that, as we all know, we do have a number of skin groups and communities in the Shire, and I think that it's only fair that if we go ahead with this, that they're equally represented. Understand that you're talking about specific community members, but you do run the risk of certain Indigenous groups overrepresenting others, and it could cause conflict. I mean, as we see at the moment, we have Yaru who are being attacked and have got conflict with other members at the moment in the community. The last thing we need is to be getting involved in that. As I mentioned last time, the Shire does have corporate protocol to liaise with their biggest landowner and their biggest native title holder in Broome, which is Yaru, and I personally do not want to see, after building such a strong relationship, that being in ruins over the threat of anything that comes from this. So I fully support this. I think it's well represented, and I think it is a way. The other last point I wanted to make is these communities actually vote their own chairs. They actually vote to have their own spokesperson. So if it is those people that are nominated to be the spokesperson for that community, well, it makes sense. They were voted in by their people, so why would we question that? I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Taylor, do you wish to sum up?
Yes, look, I think it's been an interest. Can I talk loud enough? Look, I think it's been an interesting debate, and I guess what comes to me is when this first came up, there was clearly no defined issue and problem that we were supposed to resolve. And I think this has created an awful lot of angst, time, perhaps untargeted consultation and communication. And I really am concerned about embarking on these things without a clearly defined way forward and an understanding of the problem. There is a problem there. There's a problem across the whole community. It's not just Indigenous. People talk about grassroots. There's grassroots right across the community in every cohort we have, and many of them are disengaged with the Shire and will continue to be. It needs to be a two-way street. There needs to be a clear motivation from individuals and groups within the community to actually be motivated to form groups, to come together outside of the PVC, if that's the way they want to do it, to actually represent their particular sectors there. There is nothing to stop that. Broome has a history, as do other communities, of people getting together, whether it's prime time, whether it's a community, the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, whether it's sporting groups, people who have a like interest form groups and then can move forward. We have a range of councillors here and there are various pathways of talking directly to the Shire. So I think there needs to be a focus on those people that feel disenfranchised of actually seeking ways that they can communicate from their side, because you will find from the Shire that they're a willing participant with those any group that wants to come and discuss issues that might be affecting them. So on that basis, I would like to commend the officers for threading a very difficult needle over the last year while this has been on the table. And I think the way forward in the recommendation is the way forward, and obviously we need to come to this in the future with, I guess, a good heart and be open to see the best way forward. But it's a two-way street. It can't be us just pushing from our side. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Taylor. I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour of the report recommendation? Okay. All those against?
I think it's just me, Chris.
I think it is too. So that's carried 8-1. Thanks, Councillor Mummett. Okay, moving on. 9.1.2, Public Art Proposal. William Reid as a report recommendation on page 34. Do I have direction from Council? Councillor Taylor, Councillor Virgo. Any clarification on this one? If not, it is moved unanimously. Thank you. Did you get? Item 9.2.1, the Broome Turf Club, waste concession fee request. Councillor Cooper has declared a financial interest, and Councillor Mayle. Would both councillors please leave the room? Thank you. Okay, thank you. There's a report recommendation. Do I have direction from Council? Councillor Virgo moving, Councillor Lewis second. Any clarification on this one?
Yeah, could I just get clarification
Smith?
again on why it is that we have a policy in place that speaks to providing a 50% concession for community groups, not for profit, but this proposes 100%.
Okay. Director Jeremy? Yep.
Thanks through the chair. We put this forward because of a direct request from the club themselves. We've been doing some consultation with them on an ongoing basis as a lessor and lessee, and we did a body of work with them previous on the master plan to over about a 4-year period. So we've had a lot of interaction with them recently. They're starting to clean up, get ready to do some redevelopment work in the stable, hopefully. So this is the first step of that. So we see it as a positive step forward, albeit a small exercise, just doing a clean up. We looked at it positively, which is why we brought it to council and recommended it. They would be eligible for a 50% concession regardless, yeah, as per our policy and in line with any other community organisation. But yeah, because of it being probably one of the first positive steps by the club to start tidying up and redeveloping, we wanted to put it forward.
Okay. Thanks. Any further clarification? If not, is there any dissent?
Yes, thanks, Chair.
Oh, okay. So you're speaking against. Okay. Councillor Virgo.
I think, as Jeremy said, there has been, and I've been privy to this over the years, being on the committee, there is quite a lot of rubbish out there that had to be cleaned up for the next stages to happen. And that's that 30-year plan, which is very important for that development for the town, for the use of that area. So I believe this is a one-off. And I think moving forward, they can still access the 50% if there's other areas to be cleaned, but I think we need to support this to be able to get ready for the next stage.
Thank you. And Councillor Lewis.
I had some concerns about this at first, but I asked questions at the whatever meeting it was from Miles, who said that firstly it doesn't have a major impact on their budget. They still expect that they will meet their budget. The TIP will meet its budget, and that knowing that this stuff was not their stuff, basically, it's a legacy issue of loads of old tyres and things. I can see that there is some concern about precedence. It was answered by saying that they've got a lease with the Shire and therefore have a bit better a relationship than any other community group that might want to access a freebie. So I'm prepared to let it go by, basically.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Lewis. Councillor Smith.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, look, I appreciate that the Broome Turf Club is, embarking on this very important journey to redevelop, and it's all part of a master plan. My concern is purely with the precedent that this sets, and if I look to other approaches that have been made to council in the past that have been rejected, for example, Nyambulburi Yaru, when they were doing their clean-up at their Clementson Street site with literally millions of dollars worth of asbestos that it cost them to remove and dump, and a significant proportion of that was the cost of waste fees. If they're fees that the Shire would potentially miss out on if we're going to set this precedent. And so my position is that we keep in line with council policy, which is limiting it to 50%.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Smith. Any other speakers for the motion?
I'll just make one point.
Are you speaking for or against?
Yeah, for I just like Councillor. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah, that's right, Councillor.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, just like Councillor Lewis, I was at first a bit concerned about the same factor that Councillor Smith is bringing up, and then upon questions, I felt comfortable with the answer provided by the officers, and one of the ones that that made the severe difference compared to anybody else applying for such a concession or whatever we're calling it, rather than freebie, is that this area is connected to a master plan, and in order for that to take place, it was going to be a cleanup in that area anyway. That was just one of the points that made me feel comfortable, amongst other points as well.
All right, thank you, Councillor Mahmood. Any other speakers against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Oh, sorry, right of reply.
Sorry?
Did you want
No,
what?
not a right of reply. I'm speaking against the motion.
Against the motion?
Sorry, you were calling anyone else against?
Yep.
I concur with my learned colleague over here. No, I think some very good points are made there. There is a concession of 50%, which applies to bodies there. Had this been a small community organisation with minimal funding that had a requirement to, I guess, remove some waste from whether it's a short time or a long time ago, I would be perhaps very sympathetic. But for a large organisation there that has a budget running into probably $1 million a year, etc., and a surplus according to their latest report of nearly 300,000, I think they're quite capable of, I guess, paying the small amount of fees that are due. And again, we don't want to have these battles with everyone that comes along and says they want a concession. There on some of these things, I think we need to be fairly strong, particularly where there is a capacity to pay. It doesn't wash with me that there's a master plan or whatever there. This organisation has been running for years and look, they do a magnificent job. They are important to, I guess, the community, the tourist industry and the whole vibe of Broome. But these things can be fixed up over a period of time and can be done within their budget. So I cannot support this recommendation for no charge.
Thanks, Councillor Taylor. Well, I will speak for the motion. I honestly believe there's a complete difference between a not-for-profit group, as in the Turf Club, and NBY, which is a commercial enterprise. As already mentioned, the amount of rubbish that's out there has built up over many, many, many years. And I've been out there and actually seen how much has actually come out off-site. And, you know, for a volunteer group to inherit that from predecessors is disgusting to start with, but it is a Shire fund. It's under the sanction of the Shire, and it's leased to the Turf Club. So we've got a master plan, trying to get a master plan to build it up to a much, much better state. And this is only one small way of assisting them doing what they're doing. So, and if I'm right in saying the amount of rubbish that's come from the Turf Club so far, a lot of it has been recycled steel and yeah, so there has been a benefit to the Shire from sale of scrap steel and stuff like that. But that's just a few points there. But yeah, so all right. There's no other speakers against. I'll give Councillor Virgo the right of reply.
There's not much to say. I think everyone's had their valid points, but I think you've got to look at everything as a case-by-case basis. So if someone else wants to put forward a proposal of not-for-profit or whatever else, I think the Shire will take the time to look at it and we'll bring it to council. I think, like you said, using Yaru as an example against a not-for-profit it's quite a large difference. We did question the costs and we did get told that it weren't going to rise any higher than what was there. I think this being a one-off, it is an essential part of this. You take away the racing for our industry here in town, it does take a lot away from what we do in tourism moving forward. So I fully support this one-off request.
Thanks, Councillor Virgo. I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? 1, 3, Councillor...
My hand's up.
Oh, that's 4. All those against? 3. So it's carried 4-3. Thank you. Okay. Can we get the other 2 councillors back, please? Councillor Maile and Councillor Cooper. The report recommendation was moved 4-3, so it was carried. Thank you.
Through the chair, that item's an absolute majority item. It requires a 5-4 vote.
5-4.
Through the chair, absolute majority requires 5.
Okay, so it's,
These guys need to leave the room.
okay, well, okay, I wasn't aware of that. Mhm. Well, had to, it had to be an absolute majority, so you needed 5. 5, 4.
I think
So sorry.
it was pretty obvious. It just didn't pass then.
So sorry for clarity, it's an absolute majority required. Apologies, I didn't have that on my page here, but on the screen there, I think you can see the voting requirement is absolute majority, which requires 5. So the motion's been lost.
So
It's open to elected members to move an alternate motion.
I'm happy to move an alternate motion, which would be, let me bring it up, that council authorise a 50% fee concession for waste disposal charges related to the one-off Broome Turf Club site clean-up works in support of the club's long-term development as outlined in the Broome Turf Club Master Plan.
do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Matsumoto, thank you. Do we have any clarification, any dissent?
Clarification then, and Jeremy, you might be able to answer, how much of the rubbish, I understood quite a lot of it, is not on the actual lease land. It's where the lease, it's outside the boundary. So does that, can we make that bit free? Is there any way of quantifying it so that some of it is free and some of it they have to pay 50%? I mean, it's a lot of rubbish.
Yeah, thanks through the chair. Yeah, so the area they're cleaning up is the stables area. It's the area at the west of the reserve. So that area is adjacent to lot 602, which is part of the jointly managed land between the Shire and Numbawari Yarra. So it's the in-town conservation estate. So some of the rubbish was on the lot, some of it was in the Turf Club reserve. I can't differentiate between it. I don't believe there were any records for what came from where. We have transactions at the landfill for all of the waste that it just differentiates for the type of waste. So steel, by weight, number of tyres, things like that. So, but it's, yeah, some of it was part of the work is off of the Turf Club reserve. Correct.
No, I'm sticking with the policy.
Councillors. No. Unfortunately, we don't negotiate at the table like that. Okay. So we've got a mover and a seconder. Anyone wish to speak against the motion?
I want to amend the motion to 25%, not 50%.
Do you mean 75%?
Sorry?
75% concession, is that what you mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
that they pay
I'm just clarifying. I don't.
25% of the cost.
No, I don't support that amendment.
Okay, all right, so, yeah. All right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Can I have a clarification?
Councillor Marmon, yep.
Apology, Councillor Member. Just before you start, so just for clarity at our end, sorry, with the minute taker, just clarifying where we're at. We have a mover, Councillor Smith. We have a seconder, Councillor Matsumoto, and I think we just had an amendment being moved, which I'm not sure that was dealt with. So, Councillor Lewis moved an amendment to alter the 50% to 75%. Was there a? I think the mover wasn't supportive of that.
That's correct.
Was there a?
We didn't have a second for the amendment.
And there was a second.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
so it's a
Councillor.
live amendment then.
Oh,
Yeah. Sorry.
okay, so we've got an amendment which is 75% instead of 50%. So Councillor Mahmood, what was the clarification?
Oh, my clarification was just on Councillor Smith's proposal. Where were we landed? Did they have to pay it all up front, or do we have an opportunity to add a second point where they can pay half of whatever they're paying now and the other half in the next financial year, so it doesn't hit them too hard?
I think Director Jeremy.
Yeah, through the chair. At the moment, we've got the dockets and we just invoice each month, and they have standard payment terms of 30 days. So, but we would need direction to change our payment terms. Normally, the payment terms are the payment terms. So, I doubt we could change it so half was due next year. I don't know how we would do that administratively. As per cash flow, if I refer to the report, they do have retained earnings in the bank, which would cover the approximately 6,000. So I don't think it's a cash flow thing for them. I think it's more of a request to partner with the Shire rather than a fully financial request. If that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Thanks, Councillor Director. Okay, so Councillor Lewis, do you?
Can you remind me how much money we're talking about?
Thanks. Yeah, through the chair. So far to date, the transactions are up to 5,580, the ones that have come through, and we believe there's a little bit more waste on site, mainly steel, to come through, which will take it up to approximately $6,000 for the total cleanup. Yep.
So, Councillor Lewis, do you wish to speak to your amendment?
I've probably said it all already. Except, I mean, on the principle that some of it has come from outside the site, and is historical anyway, so they are not officially responsible for clearing outside the site. It is owned by Shire and MBY, is that right? That land that's outside the site boundary? Yeah.
Yeah, it's jointly managed estate, some of the rubbish has come from, but it's from, my understanding is it's from previous turf club activities.
Right.
It's just gone over the boundary.
Okay, then that's all. I'm just arguing that it isn't the current committee's responsibility.
Can I have a point of clarification?
Yeah, okay, before I ask for the second.
On that basis, does a new committee not have responsibility for the actions of the previous committees as an incorporated body?
Did you wish to?
I think we've come to a compromise somehow, but it's 75%. But we do get some money back, as we've said before. But I think this is a one-off. We need to support the movement forward. They've got a funding for the development of that area. And as a Shire, we're partnering with them. So I agree with what Councillor Lewis has proposed.
Okay. So, Councillor Smith, do you wish to speak against the motion?
Yeah, I think
Amendment?
if we're talking about a total of $6,000, for the sake of saving the organisation $2,000, my maths is terrible. The sake of saving the organisation $2,000, but leaving the Shire open to the precedent that this sets, that could be in the order of hundreds of thousands of dollars in the future, I still wish to stick to the council policy, which is 50%.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we need another speaker for the motion. For the amendment? Anyone against the amendment? Oh, you want to speak against the
No,
amendment?
excuse me, can you just clarify which amendment we're currently on?
The amendment, the amendment is,
Happy to speak against the 75%. We have a policy for 50%. That's what should apply in these circumstances. I don't think there is any extenuating circumstances where we should go on from that, given obviously the capacity of the club to pay. The fact there's a master plan going on should bear no responsibility for them to clean up the rubbish on their lease or rubbish from their area. Any organisation should take responsibility for doing that, and that's what should apply. And we don't want to be arguing with other community groups who want similar 75% concessions or whatever in similar circumstances. The fact that it's a not-for-profit is immaterial in my mind. They are a commercial not-for-profit there, and they generate significant income. They provide great service to the town, but they still have responsibilities to clean up their own mess.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Tower. Just a clarification to the director. If the group folded, the turf club folded, who would be responsible for cleaning up the turf club?
Good question. The Shire are the holder of the land via a management order. So there would be a process where there's a couple of different processes. There's a lease, but there's also their incorporated body, which is through a different entity, through the state. So in the winding up of that, I would hope that the monies that the club has would come to the Shire to offset the remediation costs there. However, if they were folding due to financial purposes, they wouldn't have money, so that wouldn't help. So it could be that the Shire was left there holding the basket.
Okay, thanks.
One more clarification, if I may, Mr. President. Based on your question there, is there any danger that the turf club is about to fold through because of financial difficulties and an inability to pay this?
I am not aware, but we have got pressure. Yeah, I'll put it to the director, but we've got pressure on them to actually come up with a master plan, and there's KPIs on the master plan. And if they can't meet the master plan KPIs, then the lease, it's only for 3 years, I think. Yeah, it's a 3-year lease. So if they don't meet the requirements of that 3-year KPIs, then they might not have a lease. So it comes back to the Shire. Okay, all right. Okay, I'll put the amendment to the vote. All those in favour of the amendment, raise your hands. All those against? 3. Oh, Jahani, are you for or against?
Yeah, I was for. Well, I'm for both of the amendments, whichever one we're talking about.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it's 4-3, but again,
Sorry, Chair, this is just the
that's gonna
amendment,
be-
so.
yeah.
The amendment was to change the 50%
75.
figure that was in the substantive motion by councillor Smith from 50 to 75. So if that was passed, then that becomes a substantive motion for council to now vote on. We just need up on the screen, which,
Yeah.
just want to clarify the vote,
So
sorry.
it's 4-3, so the motion amendment carried. Yeah, your amendment, but is that part of has to be unanimous?
No, it's the motion that needs to be absolute majority, so this is an amendment.
So the amended motion has been carried. So now the motion is that council authorises a 75% fee concession for waste disposal charges. Now, do I have to get that one? That's the motion there.
For clarity, that's the motion, is at 75%, so it does require an absolute majority for this vote.
But do we have to have a mover and a seconder for this, or no?
No, sorry,
this is the
we've
new
got a
motion.
mover and a seconder.
Okay.
I understand that it's a little complex because councillor Smith moved something different and didn't support the amendment, but it's still her motion as amended with the 75% figure there.
Okay. All right. So, does councillor...
We've got a mover, a seconder, I don't think we've got...
Yeah, and councillor Matsumoto seconded. Yeah, originally, yeah.
We don't have anyone objected.
No. So do we need...
So sorry, for where I'm at with the minute taking, we have a mover, which was councillor Smith, and we have a seconder, which was councillor Matsumoto. And apologies, I didn't have anyone objecting to that at this point, have we? To the actual motion?
To the 75% or to the
To the
original?
actual substantive motion.
Yeah, amended.
As amended.
Yeah, as amended, so that's 4-3. Yeah. So, yeah, no, you moved your amendment to amend the motion. Councillor Burgo seconded. That amended motion was carried 4-3. So the new amended motion is as is, so it's 75%. So who speaks for it and who speaks more?
It's not in debate, sorry. There's nobody has objected to it, is my understanding. We have a mover and a seconder. It's now up to council to consider anybody objecting or...
Okay, so.
Okay, well, I would like to object.
So Councillor Smith is going to object to the new motion.
She can't object to her own motion. She can try to withdraw the motion.
Okay.
Sorry, my understanding is, and I'll check with the governance team, that you can't object to your own motion. You may withdraw your motion with the approval of the seconder.
I'm confused.
Then I wish to withdraw the motion for 75% and defer back to the original amended motion at 50%.
No, you can't, because you've already, we're at a stalemate. Oh, okay, so.
So to clarify,
I can't hear people.
to clarify,
Yeah, sorry, Councillor
where,
Martin.
because I moved the original motion for 50%, which was then subsequently amended to 75%, and that amendment was carried, that 75% amendment motion is now live with me as the mover.
Okay, all right, correct, yeah.
So
now-
if I no longer support the motion as amended, as the mover, desire is to withdraw the motion. The 50% one.
Well, no,
Somebody objects to it.
yeah. Well, if you can speak against the amended motion, or vote against it, and
Can?
we have to vote, put it to them.
Okay, so we'll just vote on the 75%.
But just, yeah, one sec, yeah. So the amended motion is now the motion, yeah. So, yeah.
You
Well,
need the seconder to agree to withdraw.
Can we clarify, if this fails, where are we at after this?
Through the chair, if the vote was the same, it wouldn't be carried. There wouldn't be an absolute majority, so that the motion would be failed and the agenda item wouldn't be carried. We would just move on.
Okay, all right, well,
If it went to a vote, the vote
Just for
would-
clarity, in terms of the withdrawal, there is a couple of clauses under our standing orders in terms of how a councillor can withdraw a motion. So, subject to subclause 2, the council may, without debate, grant leave to withdraw a motion or an amendment, for that matter, on the request of the mover of the motion or the amendment, and with the approval of the seconder, as I was saying earlier. Subclause 2 says, where an amendment has been proposed to a substantive motion, the substantive motion is not to be withdrawn except by consent of the majority of members present. The amendment has been proposed to, that's about amendments. So that's so as I was saying earlier, Councillor Smith has moved. If she wishes to withdraw, Councillor Matsumoto needs to agree to withdraw the motion,
Yeah.
or
First of all,
it
I
remains
just want
live.
to clarify all these motions and things.
microphone. Oh,
I
sorry,
can't
Phil.
see this.
All these motions that we've been moving, just get me right. Councillor Smith moved the motion that we go to 50%, right? I second it. Then there's a discussion about
I mean,
having an amendment, but Councillor Lewis moved on. To me, it was like she was trying to negotiate with Councillor Smith about
changing.
lifting it up. And I think it was just a passing comment, and she made that motion.
Councillor Virgo seconded it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, now, then we had a vote on it, and that was
4-3 in favour of the amended motion.
amendment.
The
And
amendment,
now
yeah.
we're going back.
Well,
Through the chair, the amendment was passed.
Yep.
So the amendment was to change it from 50% to 75%.
Yep.
So we now go back to what's called the substantive motion, which is effectively the substantive motion means the original motion with the amendment, which is now the 75% figure in there, which Councillor Smith has moved the original motion. It's still her motion as amended, and she's wishing to withdraw that motion, which is her entitlement, but it requires yourself, Councillor Matsumoto, as the seconder, to agree to withdraw the motion. And then we start all over again. Or, if you're not willing to withdraw it, we enter into the next step. I'm not sure anyone's objected to it yet.
before, if we defer this one to the next full council meeting to get further clarification from D or G or whatever, is that an option or?
Look, council can defer, did require a motion to defer. You're still going to have two councillors out of the room with financial interest. That's not going to change. I'm not sure if there's any further information that officers can provide outside of what's in the report. It's really a decision of council would be my position.
Yeah. So
No, I don't support the withdrawal. I want to stick to a seconder to the original motion to 50%.
Sorry, councillor, I understand the intent, but an amendment has been passed by the council to change it to 75%. The only way to get back to 50% for clarity is to withdraw the motion and start all over again.
Councillor Matsumoto, so given it's my motion that's live, which is currently, because of the amendment, at 75%, and I want to go back to our 50% motion, I'm going to withdraw the current motion, but I need your support to enable that to happen, because you're the seconder on the original motion.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Okay.
so Councillor Matsumoto? Okay, so withdrawn. Okay, so now we go back to a recommendation from council.
And the recommendation is, so can I put forward an amendment then, which is back to the 50%?
You can't change the, is that?
Yeah, through the chair, if the motion's lost, it's lost, the policy's 50%. The club would get could get a 50% concession operationally without any further motions or anything through the policy.
The motion's lost.
So unless council wanted to do something different, the policy's there in place already at 50%. We, as staff, we could apply that through the fees and charges.
So, all right, okay, all right.
So all that was for nothing.
All right, so can we call Councillor Cooper and Councillor Mail back in? Oh, what a mess. Over a couple of grand. Councillor Cooper, Councillor Mail, that item was lost, and it's back to the council policy, which is 50% fees. So we couldn't get a unanimous decision, absolute majority, so the whole motion was lost, and it's now back to administratively function. Yep. Okay. Oh, well. Thank you. All right. Moving on to item 9.3.1, cruising visitor services, assessment of expression of interest. Councillor Virgo's declared a financial interest. Councillor Virgo's gone. Do I have direction from council? on this matter? Councillor Taylor, moving it. Councillor Cooper, seconding. Okay. Do I have any clarification? Any dissent? Councillor Lewis. Okay. Councillor Taylor.
We have a recommendation. I support that recommendation, though I do not support the process of how we got here. I think.
Is that microphone on?
Sorry, my apologies. I'll start at the beginning. We have a recommendation, and I support that recommendation, though I do not support the process of how we got here. I think there is a legitimate question of proportionality here. We are dealing with a grant of up to $50,000 for one financial year, yet the process has involved a public EOI, 3 separate submissions, assessment through a weighted scoring matrix by 3 officers, follow-up clarifications, a council workshop, and then a further report back to council after one applicant withdrew. On the material before us, this is a heavy and unnecessary administrative burden, and the outcome demonstrates that the process was unnecessary and flawed from the start. As a councillor, I'm entitled to ask whether this was the most effective use of Shire resources. There is a real risk that the cost in officer time, reporting, review, workshop time and compliance efforts starts to become disproportionate to the grant itself. There is also an impost on the service provider, which is being asked to repeatedly prepare detailed submissions, revised budgets, clarifications, compliance material for what is, in local government terms, not a large annual allocation. To me, the broader governance point is that we should always have proper accountability, but accountability should be matched to the scale and risk of the funding. If Council's policy position is that cruise broom servicing remains a worthwhile activity, then that support in the order of $50,000 is appropriate. Then perhaps the better question for the future is whether this should be administered through a simple, more streamlined funding model, rather than a full annual market testing exercise of this kind. That is especially so where the report itself notes the need to review cruising visitor services scope within the tourism administration policy before the 27-28 round. Not quite sure where the consultation has come from that this review is required. It is certainly not industry initiated, and nowhere in the internal reporting on this has it been made clear that the stakeholders that cruise broom services as part of an integrated industry supply chain is unhappy or dissatisfied with the service. On the contrary, industry and cruise lines have nothing but praised for the service cruise broom provides. We should always be alert to disaffected players wishing to use the Shire for their own ends, and perhaps that's why so much time and effort was initiated on getting to this process at this time. So my view is that the process highlights a need for a more practical approach going forward. We should still insist on clear KPIs, reporting and financial accountability, but we should also be careful not to design a process where the transaction cost of assessment becomes excessive relative to the value of the grant. That is not productive for the Shire and is not productive for the organisation trying to deliver that service. A more efficient framework in future could reduce administrative burden, preserve accountability and let both the Shire and service provider focus on outcomes rather than process. And I might just add, this might also apply to the visitor centre and the impact of over-reporting on both organisations.
1 minute. Oh, you've made it?
Sorry?
Thank you, you've made it. I was going to give you another minute.
Oh, well, it's good to get it out there.
Thank you, Councillor Saller. Seconder was Councillor Cooper. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
Just briefly, I note that Cruise Broome is the only applicant. I have commented previously, and I'll mention it again, that I've personally gone and inspected Cruise Broome services when cruise ships are in. And I've also spoken to many passengers that have used those services and have heard nothing but great feedback about their services. I note that the officer's motion includes key performance indicators. I'm also well aware that the cruising industry is increasingly, I won't say increasingly, is extremely important to the Broome economy, and that Cruise Broome is assisting in the economy of Broome through its current visitor services, and for those reasons I support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Councillor Lewis, you should wish to speak against the motion?
I don't disagree with Councillor Taylor's comments about the amount of time and energy that's been taken in assessing Cruise Broome's activities over the last few years. But that's the name of the game if you're a not-for-profit community group wanting to get funding from another body. I'm afraid if you looked at some of the grants for 10,000, you'd be jumping through just as many hoops as you are jumping through here, because you're fair game as a community organisation if you want the money. I don't think that anything that the Cruise Broome has been asked to do is too rigorous. I actually like the terms that are there in the funding agreement for number 2, the suggestions, but I think they've come about because there's been so much difficulty in the past in getting the information from Cruise Broome. So we've sat through meetings, and at the end of the day still, I'm not sure what the $50,000 is paying for. It's a few days since I've read it now, but when I did read it, there was mention of the meet and greet people, and then there was mention of administration or a coordinator. So I'm still not certain what we're getting for the $50,000. One of the KPIs refers to volunteers. When I asked the question at the briefing, I was told there aren't any volunteers. So essentially, I also now don't know who the 2 people are who are going to be doing the service, because it's a new arrangement. So most times you'd have to prove that the staff that you've got in mind are sort of competent to do the job. Whether you're going to be able to negotiate with KSC and they'll come back is not known. So for me, there's still quite a lot of unknowns, which is what's necessitating this quite rigorous process for reporting, but I don't think it's too rigorous. What's the essential thing, it seems to me, that we're paying for is for some number of people yet to be revealed, is meeting Broome taxis, where people get off a bus or a car or whatever, they're given a map, a bottle of water, and if there's 1 or 2 people to meet a bus where 50 people disgorge from, I don't quite see how much conversation can be had. I believe that we're supposed to assess these things on what is given us now, rather than go and do research ourselves, or, I mean, you probably didn't go specifically for that purpose, but I haven't been to see meet and greet, so I can only go on what's written here. I don't know who the employers are going to be. I don't know how it's going to work. There was talk of buy-in from KPA and the KSMB, whatever they're called, the base. And yet I think we heard on Tuesday that there is no money forthcoming from them. So things don't stack up for me still. There's also now, excuse me, the uncertainty about the cruising industry in general. Are these ships going to get any fuel? Are their passengers going to be able to arrive where they need to at the start? The recommendation is certainly to split the payment. I think that's a good idea. But I have reservations about supporting it until some of these other things that we don't know about are known.
Thanks, Councillor Lewis. Do I have another speaker to the motion? Councillor Moe.
Sorry, I'll just briefly say there was a budget there that was provided, so we do know what the split of the costs are, and we haven't specified where they're to use those funds other than, to assist in visitor servicing. So it's up to them to present that through an audit process, which they've now agreed to. So the fact that they're agreeing to an audit process, I have no issue with it.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Moe. Do we have another speaker against the motion? If not, Councillor Mahmood, any clarification? Any clarification?
No, I'm comfortable, thank you.
Thanks. If there's no more speakers against, I'll put the motion, oh, sorry, will I reply, councillor Farr?
I don't think that's necessary.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Sorry, I don't think that's necessary. I'm happy to move forward on the debate so far.
Okay, thank you. I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour of the report recommendation? All those against?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, thanks, councillor Mahmood. All those against? Councillor Matsumoto, you voting for or against? Against. Okay, all right. It's carried 7-2. Thank you. Oh, 6-2, sorry, 6-2. Can we get councillor Virgo back? Thanks.
Yes. I know.
Councillor Virgo, that report recommendation was carried 6-2. Thank you. Okay, performance 9.4.1, the annual electors meeting 5th of February. Council Mail has declared a financial interest in item 9.4.1, the annual electors motions numbers 4 and 5. And the reason being they're a client of her business. Councillor Mail will leave the chambers whilst recommendations for AEM motions 4 and 5 are being deliberated. So we've got motion 1, 2 and 3 to start with. So these are all separate motions. Elector motion 1, do I have any recommendation from council? Councillor Virgo. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cooper. Any dissent on this motion? If there's no dissent, it's carried unanimously. Elector motion number 2. Do I have a recommendation from council on this one? Councillor Lewis, seconded Councillor Virgo. Any dissent on this one? If not, I'll declare that one carried unanimously. Item number 3, motion. Do I have direction from council on this one? Councillor Smith, Councillor Virgo, second. Do I have any dissent on this item? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. So Councillor Mail will now vacate the chambers. Thanks. All right. So we've got elector motion number 4. Do I have direction from council on this one? Councillor Lewis moving. Yes. Yep. Councillor Smith. Any dissent on this item? If not, that's carried. And elector motion number 5. Do I have direction on this one? Councillor Virgo, seconded. Councillor Lewis. Is there any dissent on this item? If not, that's carried unanimously. Can I have Councillor Mail back into the chambers, please? Elector motion 4 and 5 were carried. Thank you, Councillor Mail. Moving on, item 9.4.2, monthly financial report, February 2026. There's a report recommendation on page 139. Do I have direction from council? Councillor Virgo, Councillor Cooper. Any clarification? Any dissent? If not, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 9.4.3, monthly payment listing, February 26. Page 170, there's a report recommendation there. Do I have direction from council? Councillor Matsumoto, Councillor Virgo. Any clarification? Any dissent? If not, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 9.4.4, minutes and recommendations from the Kimberley Zone meeting and the Kimberley Regional Group held on the 13th of February. There's a report recommendation on page 191. Do I have direction from council? Councillor Virgo, Councillor Smith. Any clarification, any dissent? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 10, reports of committees. There are none. Item 11, notices of motion with notice. There are none. Item 12, notices of motion without notice. There are none. Item 13, business of an urgent nature. I have been advised of 2 urgent items of business that will need to be dealt with. The first relates to the CEO's performance review panel, and that's an appointment of a councillor. And the second is a confidential item that relates to the reconsideration of a rates exemption request. In accordance with clause 5.4 of our meeting procedures local law, I'd like to move a motion from the chair to accept these urgent items of business. That council accept item 13.1. Sorry, you're seconding? Yeah. So, anyone against? Oh, sorry. It's on 13 point special. There's
It's a motion to accept.
yeah. And so we're going to move in a second to accept that motion. There's no dissent accepted. It's on. Yeah. Okay. And the second one is that council accept confidential item 14.1, objection to the rate record. Do I have a second? Yes. Oh, so Councillor Miles accepted that as well. Okay. So we've got to move in a second for the second one as well. Okay. So, I moved and Councillor Miles seconded. Yep. And all right. Okay. Yes, so they're accepted. Okay, so item 13.1, business of an urgent nature, the Chief Executive Officer Performance Review Panel, appointment, page 309. There's a report recommendation there, so myself and the Deputy Shire are already appointed to that.
Through the chair, I'm happy to nominate in the first instance Councillor Virgo, if she'll accept to be on that panel with us.
I'll accept the nomination.
Do I have a seconder to that?
Well, you need
Oh.
a second.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, okay. And we need another councillor as a proxy to the third position. So another councillor. Do we have a nomination? Councillor Taylor, nominated. Okay. And okay, so we've got two nominations. There are no further on nominations. Okay, so the report recommendation is that, I'd better read it out, I suppose. Yep. Notes that under the CEO Officer Performance Review Policy, the Shire President and Deputy Shire President are default members of the CEO Performance Review Panel, appoints Councillor Virgo to the CEO Performance Review Panel as the councillor appointed panel member, and appoints Councillor Taylor to the CEO Performance Review Panel as the council appointed proxy panel member. So mover and the seconder, Councillor Smith, Councillor Lewis seconding it. Do I have any dissent on this item? If not, that's carried. Thank you. As the second item of urgent business is confidential, we will now proceed to move the meeting behind closed doors so it can be considered. In accordance with clause 6.2, subsection 2 of our meeting procedures local law, I'd like to move a motion from the chair to close this part of the meeting to the public. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Miles seconding it. No dissent on that, I take it. Okay. Okay, so please note that live streaming will be stopped whilst Oh, yeah, yeah. Councillors, please note that live streaming will now recommence. Can I confirm that live streaming has, thank you. Okay, so, who have we got me going? I've got to read the whole thing. Thanks. Okay. The motion just carried was that council, one, notes the benefits the public housing delivers to the wider community and supports the provision of appropriate public housing to those in need by state government. 2, notes that the provision and management of public housing is a state government responsibility funded by state and federal government. 3, notes that public housing comprises over 16% of all residential property within the Shire of Broome in comparison to Perth Metropolitan benchmark figures of 3%. Allows Foundation Housing Limited's application for rate exemption for the following properties for the 2024-2025 financial year on the overarching basis that the properties are used exclusive for charitable purposes as per section 6.26 subsection 2G of the Local Government Act 1995. These properties are listed as A101230, A103837, A113840, A114084, A118180, A119713, A304172, A305462, A305463, A305464, and A306171. Point 5 allows Foundation Housings Limited's application for rate exemption for the following properties for the 25-26 financial year on the overarching basis that the properties are used exclusive for charitable purposes as per section 6.26 subsection 2G of the Local Government Act 1995. The list of these houses are A101230, A101837, A114084, A119713, A304172, A305462, A305463, A305464, and A306171. Point 6, approve a budget revenue reduction of $240,496.41 from account 30105, rates Broome, operation including rates. Item 7, request the CEO review the delivery of services and identify savings across the organisation through the third quarter finance and costing review to offset the loss of rate revenue associated with Foundation Housing Limited's charitable use exemptions for 2024-25 and 25-26. Point 8 notes that the provision of rates exemptions for community housing providers will result in an ongoing reduction in rates revenue, which will need to be recovered through a general rate increase across existing Shire of Broome ratepayers. Point 9, request the CEO advise the Ministers for Housing and Local Government of the financial impact of charitable use exemptions for community housing providers and request that A, community housing agreements for public housing properties in the Shire of Broome include provision for the payment of rates given the significant proportion of public housing delivered by the state within the district and the impost that the removal of rate revenue for those properties would have on the remaining rate base. B, legislative reform is considered to address the complexity and uncertainty of the charitable use exemption clauses within the Local Government Act 1995, specifically in relation to community housing providers. Point C, Community housing providers are adequately funded to contribute to the rate base on properties leased from the Department of Communities in recognition of their impact on local government. And point D, the state government collaborate with local government to develop sustainable funding arrangements that support public housing outcomes while maintaining the financial sustainability of local government. 10, acknowledges the disproportionately high concentration of public housing across the Kimberley and the growing and unsustainable burden on the Shire of Broome's rating base. Should rate, can you increase the size? It's getting late. Yeah, that's good. So where was I? Should rates not be payable on public housing properties? Point 11, request the CEO to work with the Kimberley Regional Group and all Kimberley local governments to highlight the significant financial risk to all Kimberley local governments should this model of rates exemption for public housing expand. Point 12, request the CEO to actively advocate, both through the Kimberley Regional Group and directly, for a united regional position that A, calls on the WA Minister for Housing and relevant state members of Parliament to urgently address the inequity created by these exemptions, and B, seeks immediately legislative reform to ensure local governments are not financially disadvantaged by public housing properties deemed non-rateable. And point 13, request the CEO and Shire President to publicly communicate this issue by A, engaging with local media to clearly articulate the financial impact of these exemptions, and point B, informing Broome ratepayers that the cost of unpaid rates by public housing providers is ultimately being shifted onto the broader Community Act. That was carried unanimously 9-1. Thank you. Okay. Sorry? Oh, 9-0, sorry. One error. At point 15, meeting closure. There being no further business, I declare the meeting closed at 6:45 p.m. And can I please confirm the audio and recording has been ended?